Um, this is a, I guess you could say, a preliminary review of the OJ, Office of Inspector General report before I read it. And for some people who may or may not understand, before you go all the way off in the left field or right field, whatever side you choose, there's a couple of things I think you should understand. First, the main reason Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and a lot of these other people were not fired immediately is because the Office of the Inspector General only has jurisdiction over people who work for the government. So that's number one. If you only have authority and I guess you could say subpoena power and interview power over people who work for the government, then your scope of your investigation is extremely limited. So that's number one. Number two is kind of in the same vein. The Office of the Inspector General is supposed to hold accountable people that work for the government. And since that is it, it's not actually a complete investigation. A complete investigation would involve everybody. And then what's supposed to happen in the process is if the OIG gets information that is suspicious or whatever, they do an internal investigation of either the FBI, Department of Justice, Department of Defense, the Pentagon, any of these agencies, any of these government agencies that's within the executive branch. When that happens, that report is issued to Congress, and also the recommendations and suggestions for policy changes or whatever are then referred to whoever the head of that department is. So the next step is if there's improprieties and, we'll say possibilities of someone breaking the law, then what next happens is it's referred to DOJ. Then DOJ gets all that information from here, all these people over here in the government. Then DOJ, the U.S. attorney, his purview, or I should say his jurisdiction, is over a lot more people. So that's when he can issue subpoenas to people who no longer work for the government. So for instance, Andrew McCabe, there was something found about Andrew McCabe after he left, the Office of the Inspector General would not be able to subpoena him because that's not within his jurisdiction. His jurisdiction is very, very limited. So in effect, what I'm saying is this is part of it. This is not all of it. So before people go crazy and lose their minds and everything, understand, limited jurisdiction limits the amount of people, it limits the amount of information you can gather. The referral to the U.S. attorney is what would be able to gather everybody that's in everything. So people who quit and all that kind of stuff, after they've gone through, the OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, then those people would be subject to subpoena and information and whatever from the U.S. attorney who was assigned to the case. So I hope that people keep this in context, that this is how the process works. The Office of the Inspector General is not going to, first of all, implicate anybody, because that's not what he's supposed to do. He is supposed to say, hey, we found some stuff that's messed up. We think it needs to be further investigated. Here you go. Here's the file. That's all the Office of the Inspector General does. When you refer it to the DOJ or, we'll say a special U.S. attorney, their purview is a lot wider. So in their purview, like I said, they can gather facts, witnesses, and everything from anybody. The thing is, though, if it's inside the government, the U.S. attorney can't touch it until after the Inspector General has issued a report. can't be done. And I believe that's what was holding up a lot of stuff from going to Congress is if it's in the middle of an investigation, it should be very hard for Congress to piggyback on their investigation. So, I think that a whole lot more stuff is going to come out. I'm trying not to jump the gun because, of course, I haven't read the report yet, but I do want to give people a reasonable cover for what the Office of the Inspector General can and can't do. It's interesting to me that a whole lot of people, of course, who aren't as familiar with the process, want to jump the gun. He's got limited jurisdiction. Like, in court, a defense attorney or a prosecuting attorney can stand up and say, I object. This would lead to a legal conclusion. And you have to think about it in that same sense. The OIG, since he can't interview everybody and subpoena all information, you'll get the case tossed out based on that. So I hope people understand more about the process and that this is just another step. Now, so far from what I found out, there should be at least 2 more Office of the Inspector General reports. And people got to understand what's wrapped up in the Pfizer report that should be coming out sometime down the road is this is another leg of what James Comey, Rod Rosenstein, and all them signed off on. So please remember, this is step number 2 in 6 steps. And that's all I got to say. Y'all have a good day.